Hey guys, look at this. Bees are flying today. It's kind of mild out, even though there's no sunshine, so hoping I might be able to get in there and do a quick inspection. Might be my first of the year for a thorough inspection to see if the queen's laying eggs and see how much honey they have. So that's what I want to do today. I'm thinking about moving my hives down the mountain to a friend's house, and that will give them a little bit of a boost for the spring, because there's a lot more to forage on right now down the mountain than there is up here. So let's take a closer look. There's a few dead bees at the entrance. That's normal. That's part of their housekeeping that they do in the spring when it gets warm enough. They drag out the bees that have died. Not too many dead ones, though. That's good. That means there's not been a lot of a die-off. But definitely a lot of them flying around, so I think I can get in there today and kind of take a quick look and see. I want to see how heavy the hive is and see how much honey they have left. Well, the bees are definitely eating the candy. There's all kinds of chew marks. They're chewing it up pretty good. So they're definitely eating that right now. But their sound is getting louder and it doesn't really seem appropriate to start digging through the hive, so I'm going to actually close it back up. It's been really frustrating this spring to try to inspect the bees because the temperatures have not really been there. In this video, it's about 50 degrees and overcast. That means it's pretty chilly, especially if it's breezy, and the bees just don't like it. It really upsets them. So I've tried to go into the hive 3 times this spring, and it just hasn't worked out. I keep ending up closing up the hive again. So as long as I saw that they had the food, I thought, well, I'll just leave them be, and then I'll try to wait for some warmer temperatures to check them out. I'm going to take off this insulating layer. Occasionally some of the daytime temperatures have been sunny and 50 and the bees have been flying around, and I thought it probably was just a little too hot to leave that insulation on. So with the spring coming, I thought it would be a good chance to take the insulating layer off just so they weren't building up too much condensation. So the hive feels moderately light. There's probably not much honey left in here, so I do want to start feeding them pretty soon. We are going to have a snowstorm on Friday, so maybe after that might be a good time to start feeding them. I think on the next warm day, I'm going to take out the sugar blocks and start putting in the feeder. So as long as the temperatures don't go below freezing, they should be okay. So now that I've taken the insulating layer off, I can see a lot more dead bees in the entrance there that they haven't cleaned out yet. So there's probably a good 100 dead bees in the bottom of the beehive that it's just been too cold for them to clean out and take care of the bodies, but they've had some loss. So I'm hoping the queen is laying and they're starting anew, but they're going to need more resources to do that. But it's a normal part of the bees' cycle is to have death over the winter, but hopefully they'll be able to recover from it. And I put the entrance reducer back in because I want to minimize the draft that gets in, so I'm just making the hole a little bit smaller because the cold weather's not over yet, so that'll help them be able to keep the heat in their hive. Well, it's quite warm today. Nice and sunny, 59 degrees, and the bees are going pretty good. I've been wanting to fix a problem I found in my beehive. There's a hole in the wood in the lid and in the cover of the beehive. So I want to patch that up with some 2-part epoxy, some non-toxic epoxy, so I can plug that because I was having a problem before with the bees drowning in the top feeder when they were crawling through on the side of the hive. So I'm going to take that off really quick and flip it and patch it. And I'll show you where I found my hole. Right there. So somehow they were getting in. Either they were crawling up into this, or maybe they're crawling through the flashing, I'm not sure. They might have been crawling in through this hole and making it their way on the other side of that hole. So, the epoxy that I'm using is called Epoxy Sculpt, and it's a non-toxic 2-part epoxy. I use it in my jewelry making, and it's 1-to-1, so there's 2 parts that you mix together in a 50-50 ratio. So I'm just going to roll together a small ball, and it, in 30 seconds to a minute, you can make your patch material, and I'm just going to kind of fill in the hole. But it's really great stuff, just because it's nothing like the plumbing epoxy that stinks really bad and super toxic. I mean, they tell you to wear gloves, but I mean, I've been using it forever for my jewelry making, and it dries super hard and waterproof and all of that. So it's really great, and I'll leave a link to it in the comments. It virtually has no smell. So it really doesn't have any smell at all. It just kind of smells like Play-Doh. So I can just kind of smush it into the hole there and smooth it out. But it took me a while to figure out that's where the bees were coming in. I was looking at the feeder. I thought something was wrong on the feeder end, but it turned out there was a hole in the cover, and turns out the wood's a little bit rotten there, so I might have to end up get a new cover for the hive if the wood continues to rot out like that. So it'll continue to be a problem if the bees could figure out more ways through. Anyway, that's I've been wanting to fix that up for a while now, and I'm glad today was finally nice enough where I could take the cover off, and I thought of the Epoxy Sculpt as a non-toxic idea to fix that hole. I'm just kind of being thorough and putting it in the cracks and everything, and going to go on the outside even as well, just to be very thorough about it, because those bees are sneaky. So up at the hive today, a lot of activity. We have a pretty warm, mild day, very strong sun, so all the bees are out. I don't know if you can hear them behind me, but they are buzzing around like crazy. Maybe we'll catch a few buzzing me in the face here before I go in. But I'm hoping to do a hive inspection today and see if the queen is laying and see what their food stores are. I might do some supplemental feeding with a hive top feeder. So that's what I hope to accomplish today. So let's see what we can get done. This is a great tool, this Burns-O-Matic, for not having to fart around a whole lot when you're lighting your smoker. Very strong flame. So I'm not eating the food anymore. I'm going to take that off. They didn't really eat a whole lot of the food that I gave them this winter. They just went down to like one section and they chewed it up. So that's pretty good. I feel pretty good about that. But they didn't really need all that supplemental food. This box feels kind of light. So I'm guessing they don't have a whole lot of more honey up here anymore. Let's see if I can wiggle out a few frames. There's a little bit of nectar in here, but it's from the feeder that I put on in the front there. So we're kind of working on that. Oh, I see some pollen. Yeah, buddy. See some pollen on these girls. That's encouraging. So maybe I'll leave them up in the mountains. I was just afraid there wasn't going to be any pollen for a while. Just one bee with a couple sacks of pollen. I wonder where it's coming from. I think they're just working on building comb. I see a lot of festooning. No eggs yet, so the brood might be below. There's a little bit of nectar, probably from the feeder. The only thing I'm not crazy about is that a lot of this comb is stuck together. They did a lot of crooked building, and it's going to make it hard to do inspections. So I'm cutting into it. It's stuck together at the bottom. Jeez. Yeah, and there's a bunch of dead bees in these two as well. So sure what happened. Maybe they kind of froze and then they couldn't fall to the bottom because of the way the comb is built. I'm going to try to take out both at the same time because they're light. See this on the bottom here? All these are dead bees. So at some point they froze or they couldn't get where they needed to go. And then maybe because it was connected at the bottom here, so that's too bad. It's not like the whole colony is dead, but they could have been trying to get to honey, and then it got really cold and they couldn't make the cluster, and so they died. So all these bees are dead. So they are running out of food. I think that's probably what's the scenario here. So I'm definitely going to put the feeder on. So there's 3 frames of honey, and all of this is empty anyway. So I'd like to see what's going on in the bottom box. Oops. Just got to see what's going on below. See if she's laying yet. Alright, these all feel pretty empty. I do see a lot of dead bees in the bottom. So we lost a lot of the colony, but they're still thriving. They don't act like they're queenless, even though I haven't seen the queen yet. But all their stores are about used up, so they definitely need some food. Well, it's unfortunate that I haven't seen the queen or any signs of laying, but what I'm going to do is put the feeder on. And fill it so they have something. Maybe I'll look through these frames again because they seem to be a little bit more clustered up here. Queen could be up here. Oh, I see the queen. So, queen is right in there. So they still have a queen. She's not laying as far as I can tell. They just need to get their food supply straight. So I'm going to tuck them back in, not waste any more of their time, and give them a little bit of supplemental feed for the time being. The colony's definitely under stress, but good news is the queen's still there. The bees are bringing in pollen. So to wrap up, I guess I'll say my takeaways are they're running low on food stores, but they're not totally out, but they are pretty low. There's only about 6 frames of honey in there. But this time of year, that shouldn't matter because within a month, everything's going to be blooming and stuff. So they're starting to bring in pollen, so they're finding pollen from somewhere, maybe grass or dandelions or something. And a lot of bee death. So hopefully they can bounce back from this and the queen will start laying soon. That's what I really want to look for. I don't want to fill up the feeder too much because I want to look again next week and make sure that the queen is laying. So that's my biggest concern. I want her to start laying pretty soon. So.